Hey guys, this is the beginning of the end. This is the Battle of the Chesapeake. This is where the French helped to trap British General Charles Cornwallis. September 5th, 1781. The Battle of Chesapeake Bay prevented the British from reinforcing or evacuating the army of Charles Cornwallis the following month at the Siege of Yorktown in Virginia. Yorktown is the last major land battle of the war, and it is the defeat that forced the British to sue for peace. Without the Battle of the Chesapeake, then the last major battle would never have happened. Battle of the Chesapeake leads to Yorktown, which leads to victory. Irreplaceable losses of men and supplies at the Battle of Guilford Courthouse forced General Cornwallis to end his southern campaign in the late summer of 1781, when Lieutenant General Henry Clinton ordered him to find a defensible deep-water port for use as an operations base. Cornwallis marched his army into Virginia because he figured, I can find a port city here, and then Clinton can send me reinforcements, or he can evacuate me as necessary, because we're the British. We have the greatest navy in the world. We control the water. We've controlled the water this entire war. The only hiccup in that would be John Paul Jones. Yeah. Or, the British didn't like him very much. We loved him. But so, okay. For his base, Cornwallis chose Yorktown, Virginia, which was a port where the York River joins the Chesapeake Bay. As Cornwallis fortified the town, making it more defensible, Clinton received information that a large French fleet was en route, was on their way to the Chesapeake from the West Indies. So Saratoga causes the French to join us because we proved ourselves. And then now the French have sent actual, real ships, weapons, men. Without Saratoga, you don't have Chesapeake. Without Chesapeake, you don't have Yorktown. Without Yorktown, you don't have victory. It's all connected. So, Clinton sends a British fleet, 19 British warships, ships of the line. Now, a ship of the line was a huge, massive, lumbering ship with hundreds of guns. We're talking about first-rate ships. Back in those days, they didn't call them battleships and stuff like that. They called them ships of the line. And you had first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, all the way down rate ships. And he sent a fleet of first and second-rate ships down there to fight. And there were 7 frigates as well. Frigates are generally considered fourth and fifth-rate ships. The rating has to do with the weight and the amount of broadside firepower a ship has. The first-rate ships were very, very expensive, and fourth, fifth, and sixth-rate ships were a little bit cheaper. So generally, fleets would have lots of third and fourth and fifth-rate ships and a few big heavy ones of the first rates. So Rear Admiral Thomas Graves is in charge of this British fleet, and he's sent to intercept the French. However, Graves was slow, and when he arrived at the bay on the morning of 5th of September, the French armada had 25 ships of the line and 6 frigates under Rear Admiral Francois de Grasse, and he was already there. The French had beaten the British there, and they had a bigger, stronger fleet. De Grasse, his fleet sailed out the afternoon tide and formed an inline battle formation. See, the whole point of back then is you wanted to sail your ships and you wanted to run into them. That way, your ships over here versus the other guys here, you wanted to have all your ships with their guns all on the sides of their ships able to fire. So with the ships that are coming towards, their guns are pointing this way and that way, and your guns are pointing straight at them. You want to cross the T. The British were incredibly good at this. They were better than the French. So even though the French had more ships, the British were they still had the advantage because of their training. They were simply generally considered better sailors. However, Graves' fleet approached from the northeast, sailing with the wind. If you're sailing with the wind, you have more propulsion, you have better speed. And he ordered his ships of the line into a similar battle formation as the two fleets sailed south on slightly converging courses. So they're both doing this one. They're slightly coming towards each other. Both fleets want to get in front, so that way they can cross the T. The 2 hour long battle began at about 4 p.m. with an exchange of broadsides fired at close range, massive volleys of firepower, destruction. Some confused signals among the British commanders resulted in a number of their ships not entering the fight, a situation that historians have long debated. The biggest advantage of the British was their training, and their training failed them. They did not act in a disciplined manner. That let the French get the advantage. The firepower of the larger French ships took a severe toll on the British, and after 2 hours of pounding on each other with darkness coming on, Graves pulled away. The British retreated. Both fleets moved slowly south until de Grasse lost sight of Graves. Graves turned his fleet towards New York. He ran away and returned north to block the bay, thinking that the French would go up there. But that wasn't the point. The point was the French wanted to block the British because they did not want Cornwallis to be able to escape on those British ships. There were some severe losses. The British had 90 dead out of 13,000 sailors, 246 wounded, and one ship was scuttled. It means that was so badly wrecked that the British had to sink it themselves. And they had 5 badly damaged ships that didn't sink. The French had 220 dead or wounded out of 19,000, and they had 2 ships damaged. None of them sank. This has major consequences, and those consequences we will get to with the next reading. I hope you're learning, and I hope this might have been a little bit fun.